Between 1968 and 1974, a serial killer terrorized Northern California. He mailed taunting letters to newspapers, sent coded ciphers to police, and claimed responsibility for murders no one could prove. He called himself the Zodiac. Over 50 years later, his ciphers have been cracked, but his identity remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in American history. It began on December 20, 1968. Teenagers David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen were parked on Lake Herman Road in Benicia, California, when someone walked up to their car and opened fire with a .22 caliber pistol. Both were killed instantly. There were no fingerprints, no shell casings, and no motive. Then, on July 4, 1969, another couple, Darlene Ferrin and Michael Mageau, were shot multiple times at Blue Rock Springs Park near Vallejo. Mageau miraculously survived. About 40 minutes later, a man called Vallejo police from a payphone just blocks from the station. His words were calm, almost rehearsed.
I want to report a double murder. They were shot with a 9mm Luger. I also killed those kids last year.
Just a month later, on July 31, 1969, 3 California newspapers, the San Francisco Chronicle, the Examiner, and the Vallejo Times-Herald, received nearly identical letters. Each included a piece of a 408-character cipher made of circles, crosses, and cryptic symbols. The writer demanded all 3 publish his code on the front page, or he'd kill again that weekend. He signed each letter with a circle crossed by 2 lines, the same symbol he would later call his signature, the Zodiac sign. The cipher was solved within days by 2 schoolteachers, Donald and Betty Harden of Salinas. When decoded, it read, "I like killing people because it is so much fun. Man is the most dangerous animal of all." But it ended with a tease. "My identity is in this cipher." It wasn't. On September 27, 1969, college students Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard were picnicking at Lake Berryessa, Napa County, when a man approached wearing a black hood with the Zodiac symbol stitched on the chest. He claimed to be an escaped convict, tied them up, then stabbed them repeatedly with a foot-long knife. Before leaving, he drew the cross-circle symbol on Hartnell's car door and wrote, "Vallejo, 12/20/68, 7/4/69. Sept 2769, by knife." Cecilia Shepard died 2 days later. Hartnell survived and gave police a detailed description. Calm voice, heavy breathing, around 6 feet tall, 200 pounds. 2 weeks later, October 11, 1969, cab driver Paul Lee Stein was shot once in the head at Washington and Cherry Streets in San Francisco's Presidio Heights. The killer tore a piece of Stein's shirt, wiped the cab to remove prints, and walked away in plain sight. Responding officers actually saw a man matching the suspect's description, white male, late 30s with glasses, but let him go because the initial radio call mistakenly described the suspect as black. That error likely cost them the Zodiac. On October 13th, the Chronicle received another letter and a piece of Stein's bloody shirt, proving the writer was indeed the killer. From then on, the Zodiac wrote obsessively, threatening to shoot schoolchildren, boasting of victims, and ridiculing police. By 1970, at least 21 letters and cards had arrived. Some contained new ciphers, others included diagrams of bomb designs or riddles signed Zodiac. One of the most famous, the 340 cipher, remained unsolved for 51 years, until 2020, when a team of amateur codebreakers using computers and pattern recognition finally cracked it. It read, "I hope you are having lots of fun in trying to catch me. I am not afraid of the gas chamber because it will send me to paradise all the sooner." Even after half a century, the message gave no clue to his identity. The FBI and California Department of Justice officially link Zodiac to 5 confirmed murders and 2 survivors between 1968 and 1969. But in letters, the killer bragged of 37 kills. To this day, no evidence supports that number. Hundreds of people were questioned, but 3 men remained the most discussed. Arthur Lee Allen, a former schoolteacher, was the only suspect ever publicly named by police. He owned a Zodiac brand wristwatch matching the killer's symbol and lived near several crime scenes. A friend claimed Allen once talked about wanting to kill couples and called himself Zodiac. His home search revealed bloody knives and maps, but handwriting experts and fingerprints didn't match. DNA testing in 2002 also ruled him out. Lawrence Kane fit witness descriptions and had a brain injury affecting impulse control. He lived near the victims, and one survivor identified him in a lineup, yet no evidence held up. And in 2021, an independent group named Gary Francis Post, a former Air Force mechanic who left cryptic writings, but authorities dismissed it as speculation. Despite massive coordination between Vallejo, Napa, and San Francisco police, the investigation was crippled by jurisdictional gaps, limited forensic tech, and a killer who stopped just as patterns were forming. No usable fingerprints, partial DNA from stamps that could have been contaminated, and ciphers that led nowhere, all left detectives chasing shadows. Today, the Zodiac case remains officially open at the FBI and the California Department of Justice. 5 confirmed murders, 2 survivors, over 20 letters, 0 arrests. His handwriting, his symbols, and his arrogance defined an era, turning real fear into pop culture legend. The Zodiac wanted fame, and he got it. But the real name behind the circle and cross is still missing. Half a century later, one question remains. Who was the Zodiac killer? And is he still out there? If you love real unsolved crimes, subscribe and tell me. Which case should we decode next?